Good morning, learners of Gr10. My name is Mr. Yilo from Motewo District Education. We are here today to do a topic on unemployment. So we are dealing with a chapter titled Unemployment in South Africa. May you please gather your textbooks, whatever source that you need to use or that you use at the school, so that you may be able to follow me through. I'm sorry that we started a little bit later. We are pressed for time, but I will try by all means to cover what needs to be covered today. So without any waste of time, I want us to start by looking at the introduction. Remember, we are doing with unemployment. So when we talk about unemployment, we all know now that this is the issue that affects perhaps each and every one of us, directly or indirectly. By that I mean some of us from our own families, our own homes, our sisters, brothers, or parents may be struggling to find jobs, may be unemployment. They may be unemployed. So unemployment is one of the most serious socio-economic problems that is facing South Africa today. Nearly 500,000 of South Africans are without a job. However, the statistics may even be more since the emergence of COVID-19 pandemic. Currently, unemployment rate in South Africa is 32.6%, perhaps the highest rate that has ever been registered since the dawn of democracy in 1994. In this chapter, we will look at unemployment problem in a context of South Africa, and we would also look at various approaches used to solve this particular problem. Now, let us begin by defining what exactly is unemployment. So when we talk about unemployment, what do we talk about? So unemployment is a situation in which the citizens of a country are without work, when people of a country do not have jobs. These people, they are available for work, they are also suitable, and they are looking for work, but they are unable to find work. Now, I want you to be aware or take note of the words that I've underlined here. These are the people that are available for work. In other words, they must be people that are readily available now for employment. If job opportunities would present themselves to them now, they would be able to take them. They should also be suitable. What do we mean that they should also be suitable for work? We mean that they should be people that are of the working age, or they are in a position to work. Why do we say that? Because you would remember, there are people that are in their retirement age. So those people, much as they form part of the population of the country, we cannot look at them and refer to them as unemployed because they are not of working age. Again, there are people that may be economically active, but you find that because of some of the conditions that they live with, they are unable to work. Number one, we may look at people that are mentally disabled. So such people are part of the population. However, because of their health condition, we cannot refer to them as people that are unemployed. We're looking at the learners like you. Much as some of you are of the working age, you cannot be counted as unemployed because you are full-time at school. Therefore, you cannot be declared as unemployed. And again, in order for a person to be referred to as unemployed, that person has got to be looking for a job, but that person is unable to find a work. So a person can be declared as unemployed if he or she is if he or she is willing to work. Sorry, not willing. My slide is wrong here. A person is declared as unemployed if he or she is willing to work, but is unable to find work. Now, let us look at the two definitions of unemployment. I have provided you with the first definition of unemployment. But now, Statistics South Africa, which is an institution which really takes the stats of unemployment, the stats of inflation, the stats of population in our country, has adopted two different definitions of unemployment. And the reason why they have adopted these two definitions of unemployment was to align itself with other developed and developing countries. So we have two different definitions of unemployment, which you as a grade 10 learner will have to know by heart. So the first definition of unemployment is the one which we refer to as the strict or the narrow definition of unemployment. Then the second definition of unemployment is the one which we call the expanded or the broad definition of unemployment. I want to reiterate that it is very important for you to know the difference between these two types of unemployment. Now, let us look into what the strict definition of unemployment means. So, a strict or narrow definition of unemployment, it covers all the economically active unemployed people who are actively looking for jobs in a country. Now, we say that here unemployment is defined as people who are available for paid employment for 7 days before the survey was carried out, which means these people, they must have been actively looking for job before the 7 days of the survey. And also, they must have been looking for job at least 4 weeks before the survey was conducted. In other words, in this case, in the narrow or the strict definition of unemployment, there are people who may be unemployed, but if they have not been actively looking for jobs within the 7 days before the survey or within at least 4 weeks before the survey, such people, much as they need jobs, they are not seen as unemployed because they have not taken any active steps towards finding jobs. Then that is the narrow, that is the narrow definition of unemployed. We all know now, perhaps from the families, perhaps from the acquaintances and the friends, that there are those people who would always tell maybe some other people that, please, you must hear out for me when there are job opportunities and tell me. However, what is it that they are doing? They are not actively looking for job. They are just seated, they are just relaxed at their homes, and they just want other people to tell them if there are jobs available without them taking any steps to maybe look at the newspapers, to maybe drop the CVs in effort to find employment. So such people, in the strict or narrow definition of unemployment, they are not seen as unemployed because they have not been actively looking for job within the 7 days before the survey, nor have they been looking for job within at least the 4 weeks before the survey. That is what the strict definition of unemployment entails. Let us now look at the narrow definition, not the narrow, but let us look at the expanded or the broad definition of unemployment. So the definition, the expanded or broad definition of unemployment, it covers all unemployed people who did not actively look for job or who did not actively look for employment within the 4 weeks before the survey. In other words, now, this definition is opening up to those people that have not been seeking for job. You will remember now that in the narrow definition, people that were not looking for jobs within the 7 days before the survey or 4 weeks before the survey, they were not included in the narrow definition. However, under the expanded or the broad definition of unemployment, these people are now covered. It covers unemployed people who did not actively look for employment within the 4 weeks before the survey. It also includes the discouraged job seekers. What are the discouraged job seekers, or who are the discouraged job seekers? The discouraged job seekers are those people who previously used to look for job but are discouraged from looking for job anymore because none of their efforts could bring any positive results. We know that there are people that have always been applying, that have always been dropping CVs in attempt to find employment. But in as much as they have been doing that, they have never received calls for interview. They have never even got jobs, even after their efforts. So they now no longer looking for jobs because they are discouraged, because now it does not yield any results for them. So seeking for job does not help. So they are discouraged. Now these people whom are discouraged job seekers are included under the broad definition of unemployment. Let me remind you the difference between the broad and the narrow definition of unemployment. Remember, in the narrow definition of unemployment, we said that it included all the people that are in the economically active population who took active steps to find jobs before, in 7 days before the survey, or they have been actively looking for job 4 weeks before the survey. Now, in this particular case, under narrow definition, all those who have not been looking for jobs, even though they are unemployed, even though they want jobs, for the fact that they did not look for jobs, for the fact that they were not practically looking for jobs, they are excluded under the definition which is narrow of unemployment. And under the expanded definition of unemployment, here all unemployed people which were not actively looking for jobs are now included. It further goes on to include even those which are discouraged, those who have been looking before, however, because of no positive results from their efforts, they decided to stop looking. So that is the difference between the expanded as well as the narrow definition of unemployment. However, there is a concept which we call underemployed people. So underemployed, you also need to know that what do we mean when we say people are underemployed? So we say people are underemployed when those people are employed, but their work requires them to work fewer hours than normal working hours. They are regarded as underemployed. I want to repeat. People are underemployed if they do have employment. However, their work requires them to work fewer hours than normal hours. So they are regarded as underemployed. So underemployment may come in two ways. The first one, we have evident underemployment. The second one, we have non-evident underemployment. So let us now look at evident underemployment. Under evident underemployment, it occurs when people are bound to work for fewer hours than normal, and they will try to find another work. So example, some of our families, some of our friends, some of our acquaintances, they may be working 3 days in a week. However, they are available to work 5 days in a week. So obviously what happens if a person is only employed for 2 days or is working only for 3 days in a week, that person is still available to work for the remaining days within the week. So in effort to be fully employed, he or she will start to find another job so that he can fill up those days which he or she find himself doing nothing. So that person is evidently underemployed. We also have underemployment which is non-evident. So what is non-evident underemployment? Non-evident underemployment occurs when people are willing to accept any kind of work just to be employed. I repeat, non-evident underemployment is when people are willing to accept any kind of work just to be employed. For example, here we can look at, for example, a graduate teacher. This is a person who has got a qualification in teaching, but this person has not been able to at least get a job in teaching. Now, he would take up any job. Perhaps he would even take a job as a cashier just for him to at least get some income. So in that case, this person is underemployed because he or she finds himself doing the work that he is not qualified to do. He has all the credentials, or he has got all the qualifications to work a job, perhaps that is much better than the one that he decided to take up on. So that is non-evident underemployed. And I think underemployment in South Africa is very rife because of high rate of unemployment, especially in the graduates. So because they have needs, because they have wants, instead of them staying at home, being redundant, they end up taking any job that comes to them while they are trying to find a job of their own qualifications. So such people are those that we can categorize under a non-evident underemployment. Now let us move a little bit forward. We are now going to look at the numbers in South Africa. And by that, we are just looking at the population of South Africa currently and the unemployment rate in South Africa. So I look at Statistics South Africa, statssa.gov.za, and that is where I found yesterday that currently, as of yesterday late, the population in South Africa was 60.14 million, which was recorded during the mid-year of this year. So there's 60.14 million people in South Africa currently. And of that 60.14 people that are in South Africa currently, 32.6% of them, especially of the economically active population, are unemployed. What does this tell us? It tells us that there is millions of people which are unemployed in South Africa. However, we need to take note that this 32.6% of the current unemployment rate excludes people who are not looking for jobs, because there are people out there whom are unemployed, but they really do not want jobs. So even if you can go to them and offer them jobs, they would still not take it because they are content with the fact that they are not working. It is true that there are people who do not want to work. Even if jobs are available for them, they would not take the job. So those people cannot be counted under unemployment rate. Otherwise, it would give us high rate of unemployment unnecessarily. So the 32.6% of unemployment includes those people that are economically active, which are not looking for jobs. And it also includes those people whom are unemployment, but they are unable to work. And what do we mean when we say some people are unable to work, even if they are of working age? We refer to people that are mentally ill, as I have said earlier. We refer to people that are retired. People that are retired also cannot be included in the unemployment statistics. We can include people that are in prison. We can also include people that are full-time at school. So that is how the numbers in South Africa looks currently. Now, I want us to look at the unemployment rates. So when we talk about unemployment rate, what is unemployment rate? Unemployment rate is the number of employed people, the number of people that are employed, divided by the number of economically active population in the labor market. So you take the number of people that are currently employed within the country and you divide it by the total number of the economically active population. And then unemployment will increase when these two scenarios happen. Unemployment increases when there is a decrease in the number of people that are employed. And this is now determined by the labor demand. I want to emphasize again, when will unemployment increase? Unemployment will increase when there is a decrease in the number of people that are employed. And you must also remember that the number of people employed is determined by the labor demand. What is labor demand? labor demand refers to people who want to employ other people. So if there are more people who want to employ, then obviously unemployment will decrease, because now more people will get jobs. So the demand for labor refers to the employers. When employers are seeking people that will work for them, then we say that is the demand for labor. Again, unemployment increases. Again, unemployment will increase when there is an increase in the number of people participating in the economy. So when there are more people in our population, when the population of the country has got more people, chances are a large number of the people who will be in a country at a specific period of time, they will be economically active, which means they will be of the working age. And the economically active people, we refer to all those people that are of the age between 16 and 64 years. So if you are between the age of 16 and 64, we refer to you as economically active, because you are of the working age. Now in South Africa, and I believe like in any other country, anyone between the age of 0 up to 15 years, they are not of working age. Employing anyone between the age 0 to the age of 15 years or 14 years, that is referred as child labor. It is illegal. So nobody on that age bracket can be regarded as unemployed. And even those now that are, of course, beyond the age of 64, because they are of now old age, then they are also not economically active, so they are not counted in as economically active population. So there is an increase in, if there is an increase in the number of people that are participating in the economy, that is the labor supply. Remember, the labor supply refers to all the people who are demanding labor. Who wants to supply labor, people who wants to work. So if a person is looking for a job, a person wants to work, such a person, we say they want to supply their labor. So if there are more people who are willing to supply their labor and they are of the economically active population, then we will see an increase in unemployment rates within the country. However, there is a very important thing that we must look at. We need to look at an increase in population growth. An increase in population growth is very much important, in a sense that if the population of the country is growing at a rate that is much higher than the economic growth, this will lead to labor supply. That is indeed the serious problem which we as South Africans should look at. It is one thing to say that the government cannot provide jobs for the people, while we as the individuals, we as the citizens of a country, are not looking at the rate at which we give birth. You'd find that if each family makes 10 kids, 8 kids, 7 kids, remember those kids are not going to forever remain young, but they are growing with age. After they reach the age of 18, some of them will be bound to go look for a job. And if every family is, of course, giving birth to a large number of people, then definitely the population is going to grow at a rate that is much greater than that of economic growth. And what is going to happen? We are going to stuck with the problem of many people in the country which are unemployed. The other issue that needs to be looked at is the issue of migration and immigration. So here we're looking at people, especially the people who are moving from other countries coming into our country. Maybe because they think South Africa is a good place, they may find job opportunities. So when they move into the country, they also increase on the population that currently South Africa has. So that also, it reduces the employment opportunities for the South African citizens. And by virtue of that, the population increases and we would see high rate of unemployment. So unemployment rate will increase in two ways. If population again increases more than the economic growth, or if there is a high rate of immigration, that is the people moving from other countries moving into our country. Then, because when they move into our country, they are adding on the population that we currently have. So the population is growing at a rate that is much above the economic growth of the country. Now, to calculate unemployment, at some point you will be expected to calculate unemployment. So when you are expected to calculate unemployment, remember that your unemployment is always calculated in percentage. So your answer has got to have a percentage. So the formula that we use to calculate unemployment is unemployment rate is equal to the number of people that are employed divided by the total economically active population. All this multiplied by 100 over 1. That is the formula which we need to use when we calculate unemployment. Then I want us to look at the characteristics of unemployment in South Africa. What characteristics does unemployment have in South Africa? So, South Africa has got a very skewed pattern of unemployment. This is caused by its historical background. In other words, now when we say it has the skewed pattern of unemployment, here we mean that you find that out of the different demographic groups that we have within South Africa, you find that unemployment in South Africa is not equal according to the race of people. So we have blacks, we have Indians, we have coloreds, we have Asians, we have whites. You find that most people who are who are unemployed in South Africa would be black people, and they would be followed by the coloreds, they'd be followed by the Indians, they'd be followed by the Asians, and the less percentage might be found in those that are white. So what is the reason for that? The reason for that may be because of the historical background of the country. So you'll remember that before 1994, South Africa was in apartheid dispensation, where the policies before 1994 would benefit, of course, some certain racial people over others. And that has helped them to accumulate maybe some education, some skills, which could manage to put them in a better position for them to be able to get better jobs within the country. Again, the other characteristic of unemployment is that in South Africa is that unemployment is severe. So of all the 60.14 million people that I talked about in the population, you find that the majority of them that are unemployed are the young people, youth, those that are between the age of 18 and 35 are the ones who are unemployed. And mostly you would find that these people are still young. Some of them, they come from schools, they still do not have experience. And most job opportunities that are available out there, they would require you to have some sort of experience. Now, if they have not worked before, they do not have this experience, and when they do not have this experience, they will not even be shortlisted if there is an interview or job opportunities that are available. There is a wide gap between the strict and the wide unemployment rate. So that wide gap reflects that high percentage of unemployed people in South Africa are those that are discouraged job seekers. Remember, I explained earlier on that the discouraged job seekers are those whom have been looking before, and because their efforts to find work have never yielded any good results, they have decided to stop looking. So we find that most of the people that are unemployed are those that are discouraged from looking for jobs. The other characteristic is that informal sector employment is relatively low. What is informal sector employment? So remember, there is a formal and the informal sector. Informal sector would be those people who really create jobs for themselves, like people who are street vendors, people who start their own businesses at home in order to make a living for themselves. So we are in a country where most of the people are not even looking at starting their own businesses, since they are unable to find jobs. So the informal sector employment is relatively low in South Africans. We can all attest to the fact that if you look at what we call the tuck shops or the spaza shops in South Africa currently. They are run by foreigners. They are run by people from other countries. South Africans are not really looking into creating jobs for themselves. So because of that, it creates high rate of unemployment in the informal sector. Workers in South Africa are urbanized. What do we mean when we say workers in South Africa are urbanized? We mean that unemployment is worse in rural areas. Why? Because more job opportunities are available in big cities. And this is what causes the problem of urbanization. Urbanization is the movement of people from the country. When people are moving from the rural areas, moving into the cities. And they are doing that mostly because in the rural areas where they live, there are no job opportunities. So they would want to move to the cities with the hope that when they go to the cities, they will be able to get themselves some jobs. So workers in South Africa are urbanized. That means there is a high rate of unemployment, high rate of poverty in the rural areas. And because people in the rural areas are unemployed, they will move to the cities. Now, unemployment increased crime. That is very true. So one of the biggest effect or one of the characteristics of unemployment in South Africa is that it has increased crime, it has increased inequality and social unrest. So most of the times people are criminals, people engage into criminal activity because they do not have jobs. If they are redundant, if they have nothing to do, remember they still have the needs. So what will they do? They will engage in criminal activity for subsistence, because when they need to meet their basic needs, they will what? They will engage in crime, they will rob people, they will break the houses, they will even do whatever that they want to do in order for them to secure some sort of income. Inequality and social unrest. Social unrest is things such as strikes. So when people are striking because there is high rate of unemployment, that is social unrest in our country. Unskilled and semi-skilled people are largely employed. So when we talk about unskilled and semi-skilled people are people who do not have any skills. Semi-skilled people are people who may have had some sort of training. They may have been trained in tellers. They are tellers. At least they have a skill in being tellers. Unskilled people are most people that are unemployed, and most of those people are employed in jobs that are really low paying jobs, such as domestic work or cleaning or whatever, working in farms and all those. So we find that most people that are unemployed in the country are those people that are unskilled and those that are semi-skilled. So lastly, unemployment has a strong racial dimension in South Africa. I have alluded to that earlier on when I said the pattern of unemployment is skewed. So here indeed, unemployment has a strong racial dimension where you find that people of different unemployment is not equal to people of different races. I've said that most blacks are the ones that are unemployed, followed by the coloreds, followed by the Indians, the Asians, and of course the whites. Now, we are pressed of time. We are left with 15 minutes before this presentation finishes. I hope that you are able to follow through. It's good that this topic does not really have practical part of it, so we will be able to perhaps finish it within the remaining time. Now I want us to look at the different types of unemployment. Here I'm going to be a little bit slower so that you may be able to follow and understand each type of unemployment closely and completely. So in order for us to understand the causes of unemployment, we need to know different types of unemployment. These are not the definition of unemployment, but they are types of unemployment. So the first type of unemployment which I want to look at is that which we call the frictional unemployment. So When we talk about frictional unemployment is a situation in which newcomers wants to enter into the labor market or when people move between the jobs. So at any point, there will always be a percentage of people who are unemployed in the country. We can never have a situation in a country where unemployment rate is zero. At any point, there will always be people that are unemployed. For example, if we look at 2022 January, unemployment rate is bound to increase more than what it is now. And the reason why unemployment will increase at that particular point in time, it is really because there will be a large number of the matriculants who have just finished school. So now some of them next year are not going to enroll at the university. However, they will want to look for jobs. So immediately when they finish school, we refer to them as unemployed. And also there are people who move from one job to another. So at the time when they are trying to move from one job to another, we refer to them as unemployed. So what is important to note about frictional unemployment is that this is the kind of unemployment that is short term. It is a short-term unemployment. It doesn't last for long. Why? However, we must know that it takes time to advertise new positions. It takes time for interviewing potential candidates and also to make appointments. However, this unemployment is short-lived. It is not there for the longest of time. So once unemployment increases in January 2022, some of these learners will be enrolling in the universities. Some of them will be lucky enough within 3 to 4 months to get the jobs. Or some of them might even score jobs immediately after they complete the schools. So that is frictional unemployment. It is a situation where or it is a situation in which there are newcomers which want to enter into the labor market, or those people that really wants to move between their jobs. That is frictional unemployment, and what you need to remember is that this unemployment really is short. It's not the longest unemployment rate. The second type of unemployment is the one which we refer to as seasonal unemployment. So what is seasonal unemployment? Seasonal unemployment means people are only employed during peak periods but are unemployed during the off-peak periods of the year. I repeat, this is an unemployment as a result of specific seasons. So in a year, we know that there are peak seasons, we know that they are off-peak seasons. What happens, for example, is that you would understand that during the festive season, there is more economic activity happening. So businesses have got more customers suddenly. So as a result of that, you might find that businesses are willing to employ more people in order to meet what? In order to meet the demand or the pressure that they experience at that specific time. However, once the festive season is over, such people whom were given jobs, they will be laid off. So which means now other people are unemployed, are seasonally unemployed. This is very much common in agriculture and also in services such as tourism. So of course, you know that in tourism, if of course we expect a tourism activity to take place, what will happen? More people will be employed either in transport, either in hotels, in guest house, and all those, because they are needed for the activity that is about to take place. But immediately when that activity is over, such people again would be laid off. So that is what seasonal unemployment means. The other type of unemployment is a cyclical unemployment. Cyclical unemployment, it has got to do with the business cycles. Cyclical, it has got to do with the business cycle. And the business cycles, you will remember now because we have done the chapter on business cycles already. It is about how the economy is performing. So you know that in the economy has got ups and downs. There are periods of expansion, there are periods of contraction in the economy. When the economy is growing, we say the economy is at the expansion phase. When the economy is declining, we say the economy is in the recession phase. So this is unemployment that has got to do with how the economy is performing at that specific point in time. Cyclical unemployment, of course, during the recession, when the economy is not doing well, we know that many businesses, because there is no demand for their products, they will have to retrench people because they do not have much money. So people will receive jobs only during the prosperity period or only during the upswing phase of the business cycle. Why? Because the economic activity is stimulated, more people have got money, more people are spending, businesses are willing to employ people. So in that case now, that unemployment would be cyclical unemployment, and it's dependent entirely on how the economy of the country is doing. Now let us look at the structural unemployment. Structural unemployment is a very, very, very serious type of unemployment in South Africa. It occurs anytime, even when there is high growth of economy. So structural unemployment, it results from the structural changes within the economy, such as the technical advances. If there is advancement in the technology, when the processes are modernized or production techniques are changed, then unemployment is bound to increase. For example, we normally say that if the production techniques are used by the machines, if the businesses in the country use machines to do their work, remember, such machines, and machines now refers to technology, such machines have got a way of replacing people. They replace the warm bodies. So if a machine can do a work that a person used to do, then once a business is investing in such machine and allow the machine to do the job instead of using people, then obviously such people who used to do their work will be retrenched, because now there is technology, there is machine which used to do, which now can do the work which the people used to do before. And business would invest now in this technology, because they understand that once they invest in technology, in a machine, the machine will not get a salary at the end of the month. The machine will not be absent from work. So in that case, once the production becomes more modernized, once the economy becomes more modernized, it means more people will now lose their jobs as a result of that. Some of them, they will even lose their jobs because they are not able to use the new technology that is now used, because of they do not have skills in that. So they are now replaced. They find themselves unemployed because of the changes within the structure of the economy. So economies are dynamic, which means when we say the economies are dynamic, it means they are full of change. They are not consistent. They are full of change and may result in certain form of work being redundant. As time goes and goes and goes and goes, as technology gets improving, so we find that some of the works might become redundant. A typical example of this example is when we look at, for example, the shops which used to sell the CDs, the shop which used to sell the DVDs and all that. Because of the changes in the economy that has become more modernized, now people can download music into their phones, people can download music into their laptops, and knowing exactly that a CD might not last for a long, it might glitch. So people are becoming more technological. Instead of them buying a DVD movie or a CD, they would just download the movie, because they know once they have downloaded it, it will be there for the longest of time, as long as they need to have it. Now, what happens to those people who used to be employed by such multimedia companies? They lose their jobs. Now, if you look now, currently, we do not have much shops such as Look and Listen. It's no longer there. We no longer have such businesses that are operating. If they are there, there is very small number of them. Now the question would be, what had happened to the people who used to be employed by those companies? Now those are the people who at some point had to be retrenched because of the changes that have been in the structure of the economy, when people are becoming now more technological, and then it renders other people's work redundant. We can also look at the companies such as Kodak, those companies which used to produce the cameras, the video machines, and all those. So many of those companies are now no longer existing as a result of the smartphones that we're using, because now we invest in the smartphones, your iPad, your laptops are able to take the videos. So there is no one who wishes to buy a camera, because they understand that the phones that we're using now are of the good quality, which can take very, very good videos. So nobody would want to own a phone which can still take a video, still take pictures, and also go and buy a camera. So that renders other people work redundant. And as a result, when the companies are closing down, then it means that unemployment increases. So that is the good example of the structural unemployment within the country. I want us to look at the effects of unemployment. And this would now be the last part of our topic today, because we are left with 5 minutes. We are very pressed of time. So what impact does unemployment have on the individuals? What impact does it have on the households? So number one, household people's standard of living decreases and the poverty is going to increase. And that is true. There is no way that the standard of living of people may improve if they are impoverished. So once poverty increases, then the standard of living of people decreases. People lose their pride and dignity because they cannot support their self. If people do not have work, if people are hungry, if people are poor, they do not have pride because they are in need. They are destitute. Crime rates increase. I've said that before. Because of lack of income, it forces them into criminal activity. People become frustrated, and it may lead to violences in the family, where you find that if your dad is unemployed, it's always violent, fighting every day. The reason might be the frustration as a result of not getting the job. People may experience psychological and physical health problems. They may be depressed. They may be stressed. Lack of confidence in looking there for a job, their employment chances reduces even more. Now, let us look at the impact that it has on the economy. What effect does unemployment has on our economy? So the economy experiences a decline in the production and output. So if people are unemployed, they are unable to support the local businesses. Remember, the economic growth is measured by the production capacity within the country. And that is when the businesses or the firms are producing more goods and services. Now, businesses or firms are not going to produce more goods and services if there are no people who are going to buy what they produce. So otherwise, if they still increase their production, even when there is no demand for their product, they are going to run at a loss, because some of the products that they are producing are highly perishable. Less income in the economy because of less tax base. So remember, in the economy, infrastructure and everything else is built from the taxes. So if many people are unemployed, then it means less people are contributing tax. So our economy is not going to be able to meet its basic needs, such as infrastructure or providing public goods and public services to the community. Cost increases due to huge payments towards unemployment insurance, as well as health and social costs. We are left with something like 2 minutes. I wish to finish off the last one. The effects of unemployment on the government. Now, unemployment also affects our government. Why? Because people lose confidence in their government. When there is high rate of unemployment, the first thing people lose is confidence in their government, confidence in the president. The state loses income because unemployed people don't contribute tax, as I have said earlier on. So the country develops a climate of anarchy and unrest. Anarchy, remember, is a situation where people are unruly, people do not want to be obedient to the laws that have been put by the president, or the law that have been put by the law enforcers in the country. So that is how unemployment can affect the government of the country. This was just a 1 hour session. I believe that I'm going to have another session with you. In that session, I will be looking at the approaches to solve unemployment. What is it that the government of the country is doing currently and has done maybe previously in order to solve the problem of unemployment? I do not believe that it's going to be long before I come back for another hour to finish off this topic. For now, I hope that this has been an informative lesson, very short but very much informative, I do believe. Thank you very much, learners. Please stay safe. COVID-19 is still real. From my side, I love you. Till next time, bye.